Today we'll be looking at complaints, complaints across financial services. In this case, we're looking at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and public complaints that are available there. Of course, organizations have their own complaints and a lot more than we have here, but this gives us a lot of detail about how we can apply a systematic look at this using AI text analytics. We can get into the detail and understand what's going on so you can fix things across the business and of course you can be saving money, getting better reputation and actually improving the business all around. So let's jump in and see what we can find. First of all, what we have here is just a first look. So this is just a first look at what is in this data. This is categorized things into thousands of topics, but we won't look at these at all because this is not a way to look at this type of data. There's a lot going on. There's a better way to look at this, and I'll show you that in a second. But first of all, this particular data is looking at nearly 40,000 pieces of data. We also have various things in here like the bank, for example. We've got a few sitting in here. We have the state, this is all US. We have things like the product the customer might have been talking about and things like the zip code, for example. And so this information then, we can actually cut the data in any way we like. But this is only a short session, so I'll cover off just some broad details as we go through. It's great that we've categorized the data in this way, but we want to have a great way to look at this according to what customers think is important to them. What we've developed is a framework around complaints. What are the major things causing complaints? What are things that customers talk about? So we can then view that in a very simple way. So all those categories are now put together in a view we can easily understand and quickly in a single click see what's changed. So it's really interesting what's possible in this data. What I'm showing you here, I'll describe in a bit of detail in a moment, but first of all, I'd like to step back and understand a bit of the volume going on in this data. So what we're seeing here is a volume across about the past year, just looking at these various banks and what the feedback is coming through. We can see there's lots of, the larger banks have more volume, the smaller banks have smaller volume, understandable. One of the things interesting is that Bank of America has popped up in July with a massive spike. So what's happened there? That's interesting. So let's have a look. So what I can do is go back to this view. This is actually Bank of America. And what we can see, first of all, explain what's going on, is the top chart there is just showing us frequency. Now, frequency is obviously important in complaints. We don't have a metric attached to it because a complaint is a complaint, and we want to see what's the volume of those complaints. Can I reduce those complaints? So I can see here that across time, the volume's at a certain level, but that spike is again evident here. We can see a spike in July, and it's jumping up. So why has that happened? Well, the framework we have at the bottom here is showing us these topics here that are important to customers, these major topics. So topics around staff, around price, around loyalty, and loyalty includes things like threatening churn and things like that, things around the call center, communication, and even down to things like channels like digital, for example, in there. So first of all, let's have a view though. We can see what happened in July. We can see what's happened. So 47.4% of the feedback is around staff at some level. And if I click on that, I can see a bit of detail about staff resolving issues. I'll clear that right panel. I'll go back to price here. And what I can see here is that's 40.5%. But that's gone up 11 points from the previous month. So that, for me, gives me a pretty good indication about why that spike has happened. There's something around price. On the right, the subtopics, I can see there's something in there around overcharging. That's gone up from about just under 30 to over 40. So very interesting. There's overcharging going on for those customers in Bank of America. There's things around expensive pricing as well, but that's the major thing we can see. Let's move forward and have a look at why that's happened. So one of the things we can see here is this is a similar view across those high-level topics. We can see where is that frequency picked up in July, and even got August in here to see how it's dropped back down again. So price is clearly the biggest one. That's jumped up, more than doubled. Staff has gone up about 50%. Others have gone up a bit as well, but price is the main one that's had that major leap. So what I can do here is I can have a look at some sub-detail underneath price. So we saw before about overcharging, but we can see here why it's actually lifted up in time across here. Now, we can see what's going on across all of these things, underage fees, overcharging, etc. One of the things we do know, if you've been following the US market, is that Bank of America was actually fined a large amount in July for overcharging, for double fees for customers. So obviously customers of Bank of America would have heard about this as well. So this is happening exactly in that month. So for customers, it's made them more aware of fees and charges from their bank, and they've actually made the bank more aware of it as well. So you got a lot of people coming in going, wait there, I've seen this problem happening. Is it happening to me? Well, it looks like it is for a lot of customers. They've jumped in and seen that. What I've done here is had a look at just this one of the interesting on the right, unarranged overdraft fee. Let's look at that one. So what I've done, I've selected that. On the right, I can see that our AI system has actually summarized that for me nicely. So I can see on the top here, unarranged overdraft fee. I can see the bank is charging these fees if the account holder is not signed up for credit card and uses a debit card. So there's fees happening when that shouldn't for a customer. False information reported to credit bureaus. Again, this is customers saying this. This isn't something we're saying here. This is coming through from customers here. Excessive overdraft fees. So these things have jumped in a considerable way in July, but then settled back down in August. So very interesting. One of the things about this type of data is we can actually see what's happened and compare it to others as well. So this is the same view we saw before, but I'm going to have a look now at this issue about overcharging. Is that high or is that low for Bank of America? So what I've got here, I've actually on the right, I've benchmarked these, and I can see that Bank of America is 40.4, and that's actually fourth in July. You want to be as low as possible here, of course, but I can see that there's others who have, like Fifth Third has 48% of their feedback is around overcharging to some extent. I can also see that one we looked at before, unarranged overdraft fee, and see where does Bank of America fit there. So it's third. We have others ahead of them, so there's more mentions of that for Fifth Third and Regions in July. So we can also look elsewhere. For example, one of the things I like to look at is loyalty. Now, loyalty contains a few different things. One of those is customers threatening churn in some way. So interesting here, we've got threatening churn, as a few customers are angry enough to talk about that. For Bank of America in July, it's around 21%. For Citizens, it's about 31 there. So we can see there's a fair bit of difference between some at the bottom and some at the top, and some threatening churn, obviously a lot unhappier than others. So we can see here, we can get down to a lot of detail inside this and make these things smoother for customers when we understand that detail and what's going on. Improve these, your complaints will go down, and you'll be saving money and having a better experience for all of your customers. Thank you.